Alright. Ooh, wow, we're just jumping in this. Alright, this is happening. Welcome, everyone, to, obviously, Roleplay It All. This channel, of course. Oh shoot, I need to turn this volume down, because it is quite, this is a thing. Wow, the music is loud despite being already low. I'll go with 10%. Anyways, sorry, sidetracked, already in the beginning. Alright, so, hello. It is I, a person. So what we're doing here is playing through this beautiful game, Pillars of Eternity. Seeing as this is probably the very first serious playthrough on this channel, I'm going to probably talk about a few things. This is beautiful music. A few things about this this series and series is to come, more series is to come on this channel. It's been something I've been considering for a bit of time, and I feel like it's something that's a bit different from your average YouTube playthroughs. That's just my opinion. I'd like to focus the games we play together to be mostly single-player games that involve some level of role-playing, and that's what we're going to focus on, really, is role-playing through these games. And it's important to me because we have all these RPGs out these days, all these single-player role-playing games, adventures, and things like that, and it's really fun to see what sort of options that the games give you throughout them, but maybe I think it isn't really we players, the people who play a lot of these role-playing games, we pay attention to how much detail they go into and how we can play our characters in them, but I don't necessarily know that it's a thing that's graded on a more professional scale, like different websites and people who review games. I've never really seen much in the way of... I could just be an idiot by saying this, but in my personal experiences, I've not seen much in the ways of people grading these other games, these games, on how well you can roleplay them, and it's important to me personally, but I mean, hopefully it's more important to people out there. But so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a character. Our player character is going to be as intricate and different to some degree as we can get them without overdoing it. So we're gonna go for creating a lot of details for our character in the beginning, and we'll be spending some time in that before we really jump into the gameplay, and from there we'll play through the game, and I'll probably either speak in character for the characters if they don't have any voices, or if they do, we'll just sit in awkward silence or just in awe of the beauty of whatever's happening on the screen. But besides social encounters, I'm likely to be giving some sort of like normal commentary, which is me just being an idiot, I guess, or whatever, what have you. So on top of that, I'd like to reinforce the fact that it'll probably be a bit slower of gameplay. It's not like this is a speed run or anything. This isn't... We're just going to take our time. I think that's important to the style of role-playing your character. We're going to take our time and go through the game. I have not played through this game entirely. I have played it a bit before. I played through kind of the intro regions of this game, so we'll hit a certain point where things are new to me. But this game, I think, is rather interesting and doesn't really play like many other games before it. It was, if you don't know this, which I'm sure everyone does, it was heavily inspired by the game Baldur's Gate. Pillars of Eternity was. And I think you can easily see that in the gameplay, but it's still quite a bit different. Obviously, it doesn't run on the same like AD&D system or what have you, but it has its own system in-game, but it still plays differently. It's interesting. It's like you take Baldur's Gate and you kind of mix it with a bit more of a modern style, and that's what you get for this game. So I'm excited. I love these games. Let's see, what might we need to cover? No, that's pretty much it. So towards the end of this game, we're going to grade it on some sort of scale that isn't in existence currently. We'll come up with that later. There's so much content in front of us before we get to that point. But we're going to try and grade it on some scale. And then we'll either move on to another game or I'll have another series going at the same time as this one. But for these game series, our focus really is in how you roleplay it. I'm not going to grade the game on really any other scale besides the factors of role-playing. Gameplay and all that is covered in many, many other places. I think role-playing is kind of overshadowed by the gameplay, the audio, and all this, which is not to say it's not important. It's just I'd like to shed some light on it, some importance in how we view in the community, how it's seen. Anyways, before I ramble on further, let's make a character. I'm sure you've already seen. I don't have the rest of the expansions or just the expansions period for this game yet. I don't really know if those come into contact early in the gameplay, but I kind of just assumed that it's post-game content, so I can just pick that up later. Anyways, let's get into this. So we're going to play the game not on story time because I like some sort of challenge. Story time is for players who are more interested in exploration and story development than the challenge of combat. I mean, I guess that is well suited to some degree for our purposes, but we're probably going to stick to easy. Well, easy or normal. Let's just stick to easy for now. I don't know that we need to go necessarily to story time. I don't think I suck that bad at the game. We'll see, though. Obviously, we'll be playing on Path of the Damned. Expert mode. Disables the numbers of helpers. Now we'll probably need that. I have not played this game extensively. Trial of Iron mode. No. Okay, so we're just going to jump in here and see. Oh, what is this? I don't remember this. Might have to turn the volume up some more for the music, but we'll see. That's pretty. I really love the artwork in this game. It really is just beautiful. I like the light and the difference between light and dark and the god rays and all that sort of things. It's pretty nice. And also the loading screens look so cool. Anyways, harping over the game already. You can change the portraits of your main character and adventurers through the current portrait on their character sheet. Interesting. Okay. What character are we going to make for this game? I've actually not even thought about that really too much. So that is a thing that should be considered because it's kind of important.
5 wagons grope blindly for the path on a starless night, their master glancing ever upward to the skies for assurance that he is on the right course. A dim lantern his only protection against the encroaching darkness. But the skies bring no comfort, shining no light, betraying no hint of what they know. The caravan carries travelers bound for the frontier hamlet of Gilded Vale, you among them, where a local lord has offered land and wealth to settlers from abroad looking for a fresh start. You have taken suddenly ill, sweating and shivering, and one of the other travelers signals for the caravan master to stop on your behalf. He pulls up just in time to avoid plowing into the trunk of a fallen tree that bars the way ahead. You will go no further tonight.
Interesting. I totally forgot that this game has such just wonderful introductions to things. That's beautiful. All right, so we're sick on this caravan and they're stopping. Okay, all right, character creation, here we go. Good question. Male or female? I don't know that I want to make that decision just yet. I might go to race first. Male or female? Male or female? Male or female? I wish I had a coin. Flip a coin right about now. Let's see. I guess we'll go male for now. Well, we might change it later. Alright, what options do we have here? Human. Humans, commonly called folk. Alright, that's pretty simple. Are the most common race in the Direwood and Adir Empire. Old Valia. Valia? Valia. Old Valia and the Valian Republics. Oh, can we like see? Oh, that's really interesting. So we can get a lot of like role-playing knowledge already. Probably should read through all of these when we make our decision. Though not as large as the towering Almoa? I have no idea how to pronounce that. It's too many vowels. there's okay. The Almea. Humans are well known. Humans are known for their strength and willpower. Okay, so they get +1 to resolve and +1 to might. So resolve is drive. It's kind of like their willpower, their mental intimidation, leadership. So they make good leaders. Might, strength, pretty much, damage and healing. Healing, that's interesting. Alright, so there's human, then there's the the mighty are the largest of the Kith races. I wonder what Kith races are. I wish that was highlighted. And are commonly found in or near oceans. Though not truly aquatic, they have an affinity for water, and many of their civilizations, such as Rauatoi, something like that, are based on naval dominance. They are known for their unparalleled strength. Okay, so they get +2 to might, and the humans get okay, so I'm guessing that everyone gets 2 points in something. They look kind of interesting. They kind of look like a tribal kind of people. I could be wrong, but well, they have civilizations. They're not really tribal. They just look like it. I don't know. That's probably wrong to assume. Anyways, moving on. We'll look at dwarf. Dwarf is always a fun one. Alright, by virtue of land covered and number of colonies settled, dwarves are the most well-traveled race in the world. They are commonly found in Direwood and the Valian Republics, and most any colonized land. Dwarves are known for their great strength and tenacity. That sounds fun. It sounds pretty cool. I'm liking that idea. It's a dwarf. I don't normally play dwarves that much on games, and I don't know that there's. I don't know. There's a good few games that you can play as dwarves, but most games are human-like races. So when you get the shorter races, they're normally not really in existence. Oh, okay. So dwarves are a little bit different. It seems they've got a trade-off. They've got -1 dexterity for +1 constitution and +2 might. So they're not good. They're probably good warriors, but they're not very good at any sort of like dexterous. I mean, they're generally less capable at dexterous stuff. So moving on, we've got dwarf, and then we've got elf. They look interesting. Elves are the dominant race in Aer Glanfath? Aer Glanfath. And the white. Interesting. That wins. The white that wins. And are extremely common in the Direwood and Adir. Elves are known for their speed and intelligence, as well as a commonly isolationist nature. Alright, that's pretty typical. They're pretty typical elves, it sounds like, for the most part. To some degree. I mean, they look pretty different. with the whole bluish skin thing, like greenish teal. Moving on, we've got Orlan, or Lane. Oh, interesting looking. They're like little beast-like halfling people, kinda. Orlans are the smallest of the Kith races. So it seems like the Kith are a little bit beast-like, maybe? Maybe just a little? They're the smallest of the Kith races, though many cultures don't consider them to be civilized at all. That's rude. Also notable for their large ears, two-toned skin, and hirsute? I don't know that word, actually. Bodies. Orlans are commonly found in Air Glanfath, the Ixmital Plains, I'm terrible at this, and parts of Direwood. They are known for their mental intensity and sharp senses, so they trade off one might for one more perception and resolve. So I imagine perception's for ranged comments? Yeah, accuracy period in combat. Okay, interesting. And resolve is your willpower and stuff like that. Okay, and then you've got godlike. Wow. Oh, whoa. Okay, godlike. This is an interesting one. I mean, if I have to say, what is this? I don't know. Okay, so the godlike are children of the Kith, civilized races. Children of the Kith, civilized races. So wait, are the Kith just civilized races? So all of these are Kith. Is that what I'm getting from this? But these are children of them. The godlike are children of Kith. So maybe the godlike are born to any of these races. They just kind of appear suddenly. Who have been blessed with physical aspects associated with the gods, though some do not consider it a blessing. So they're kind of like Aasimar or tieflings, I guess, in some degree. These aspects may take many forms and often come with mystical powers. Aberrant head shapes are typical, and godlike are unable to wear protective headgear as it is near impossible to find anything that fits. That's interesting. I like that they weren't afraid to shy away from giving them. Is anyone that doesn't have boots? Usually that's the thing, is someone doesn't have boots. But I like that they didn't shy away from giving them no headgear, because that's cool. Because of their unusual nature and their inability to reproduce, interesting, godlike are often viewed with fear and wonder. They have an increase to dexterity and intelligence. And dexterity's how hard it is to hit you, I assume, yeah? So many interesting choices. I did like dwarf. I do like the dwarven option. This game feels a little elfy to me. Some of the names, like Air Glanfath and the White That Wins, obviously. The Direwood sounds interesting for an elf. I usually play far too many elven characters, so I'm going to try and shy away from that. So it's something that I already do. I wonder what these guys can look like. These are just so interesting looking. But I don't really like the idea of looking something different. I don't know. That does give a couple of interesting role-playing ideas, since, I mean, that should be our focus here. Being a godlike and kind of being afraid of it and just shying away from people. I mean, you look like what are you? It's interesting. It's definitely not something you're gonna see in really many other games. Can't really think of one right now. I don't think I've ever seen anything this horrifying. How does he see with that on? Maybe he doesn't see. Maybe he uses his little antenna things like an ant or something. I think ants do that. Somewhat. So, what are we gonna be? Orlans? These guys are nice looking. And they sound like they get put down a lot. which could be very interesting if we're playing as an Orlan who has some level of disdain towards a lot of people, or has a problem with people. That would make a good rogue or something. Roguish character. Dwarf is fun as a fighter type guy, though I'm sure we could hold off on making a generic fighter for a little while. Let's make something interesting for our first gameplay. The I need to really look up how to say that. That's interesting. They are water people. So maybe Viking-like culture? Seafaring culture? They have, it looks like they have like, oh no, that's just what everybody's got on. I don't know. They could be interesting. They're so big though. I don't know that I want to be a big dude immediately. I just... maybe. Humans are a decent choice. I don't want to throw out the option of playing as human. Oftentimes people look at it and say, you know, what's the fun in that when you've got godlike? You know, I could play as this dude instead of a normal human, because we're all human, obviously. But I don't want to just throw that out there, because there's definitely a lot of, like, probably politics involved. I could see politics being involved, because normally human races are more involved in politics and are usually seen as heads of society more than these other races. So, oh, that would be interesting if we made some sort of noble character. Or like a shunned noble. I'm liking that, actually. Like a character that was once in nobility somewhere, but was kind of kicked out for some reason. That's interesting. With all these other options, though, that you just don't see in other games, I feel like that's just... we're doing a disservice to this game by choosing human. I wonder if these other characters can be nobles somewhere. Let's see. Delicious chocolate milk. Let's see here. I'm not thinking that probably involved with politics. Maybe I shouldn't get married to the idea of being a noble. Let's just go on a whim. Let's just choose one of them. I'm getting stuck here already on race, and we've got so many other things to do. Let's do... I keep coming back to this little guy for some reason. You know what? Screw it. This is what we're gonna do. We're gonna be an Orlan. Alright, let's pay attention to what he's good at before we get too involved. They are decent at resolve. So internal drive, determination, and fearlessness. And emotional intensity that they can project to others. That kind of sounds like some sort of a charisma thing too. Yeah, it says mental intimidation, leadership, and convincing performances. Okay, so it's pretty good with people and emotions, really. In combat, it helps the character maintain concentration and contributes to will and deflection defenses. So they're not strong. They've got a -1 to might, which kind of plays on the fact that I don't really want to be a fighter. And then their perception is +2. Or maybe we do want to be some sort of like martial character, and in spite of this might weakness that their race normally has, just because we can, just in spite, because they could be quite a bit spiteful because of the things that people don't even consider them civilized. That's pretty messed up. So they are quite perceptive. That makes sense too, because you got the character that's in being very spiteful towards everyone, and is that quiet kind of watch people and pick up on things, and then whenever they do speak to them, they're like, look, I know all of this about you. And yeah, I like that. That's interesting. We're gonna go with this. All right. Ooh, sub races. We've got the Hearth Orlan. The Hearth Orlans are often found as slaves in the Red Ceres and Valian republics. One of the treaty terms between Direwood and the peoples of Aer Glanfath was the liberation of Orlan slaves, and while this has been honored, many Hearth Orlans continue to live in the Direwood as indentured servants. Interesting. Alright. Direwood. Minor threat. When attacking any target that is also being targeted by a teammate, Hearth Orlans convert some of their hits into crits. Oh, okay, so since they aren't paid attention to as much, they're looked down upon. That's pretty messed up. Some of their hits turn into crits. They can get those openings to get a crit. Alright, let's look at Wild Orlan. Oh my. Oh my. Wild Orlans are the original Orlans who lived in the deep forests and jungles between the tropics. These guys, they kind of remind me of some sort of fae-like creature now that I'm looking at them. While they have only been significantly separated from Hearth Orlans for 1,000 years, a few genetic differences have appeared rapidly, most notably a lack of facial hair in the Hearth Orlan branch. Wild Orlans are commonly in the deep reaches of Aer Glanfath, and unlike their Hearth Orlan brethren, they are not often seen in Direwood, Red Saris, or the Valian Republics. Defiant Resolve. After being subjected to a will attack, Wild Orlans temporarily gain a bonus to all defenses. They do sound very, like, mystical and, like, this fae-like creatures. I don't know that I want to go for this, though. I'm really kind of feeling this whole, like, subjugation of the Hearth Orlan. Let's go for the underdog. Why not? Whew. Okay, classes. There are quite a few. Starting from the top, we've got Barbarian. Ooh, that looks cool. That would be cool for the Wild Orlans, I feel like. Brutes, Madmen, Berserkers. We're not going to have to read all through all this, I don't think. So we've got Barbarians. Pretty generic. They're good at survival and athletics and carnage. They've got an ability called Carnage. And then we've got Chanter. What is a Chanter? Is this like a cleric? He's got a halberd, it looks like. Or just an axe. It looks kind of like a halberd, though, for his size. In every culture, there are chanters. Most historians consider chanters to be the most ancient workers of magic. Their hallowed phrases stirring the collective memory of wayward souls around them, compelling them to generate magical effects and a kind of reenactment. So they're like bard clerics? That's kind of what I'm gathering here. They're bards that affect souls? That's pretty interesting, actually. Very interesting. But they have weapons, so they're not just useless. Well, bards aren't useless either, but regardless. Let's see. Lore, so they know things. Is our character a chanter? I don't know that they would necessarily work magic. I don't know. Where would they learn it? It's a whole other question we have to ask. A cipher. A recent discovery in Eastern Reach. Ciphers were once called Brishelgwyn? Mind Hunters by the Glenfathans. Ciphers have the ability to directly contact and manipulate another person's soul and psyche, using an ally's or enemy's essence as a focus for their magic. I like that for some reason. I like this because it ties into the fact that they're kind of spiteful. Our character is going to be a bit spiteful, and so they're quiet, spiteful type, but whenever you mess with them, they mess with you, like, not only on a conversational scale, but they can just reach into your psyche and just crush you into your soul. That's great. The spite level capability of that is just amazing. So they're still found, blah, they're practitioners of the techniques, have spread through the known world. They gaining acceptance over time, but generally distrusted, and especially especially by the uneducated. This makes sense because we're already distrusted, so why do we care? I mean, it's probably just going to add to more distrust, but why do we care? I really think Cypher's calling out to me. I haven't played as Cypher before, so I don't know what it's like. Druid. I don't think we're going to go Druid. I don't think nature is really important to our character that much. I'm not feeling it. Fighter, like I said, we're not going to do fighter. That's just a pretty basic. I'm sure there's a fighter NPC that we get with us eventually. I think there is, actually. I could be wrong. Monk? A monk? I like monks, but I don't know that it fits our spiteful personality. Monks are usually kind of at some sort of peace with themselves, I feel like, usually. I don't know. Maybe not, but that's how I feel about them. Paladins. Martial Zealots. I definitely don't think we're a paladin. I do not see us being a paladin. Priest. Again, I don't see us being a priest just because I don't really think that we're religious. I mean, look at who we are. We've been enslaved for a while, and then even now we're treated with unfairness. Why would we be religious? Or maybe we were driven to religion. Who knows? I don't feel like our character is religious. I feel like he's very spiteful. Ranger, I've played as Ranger before. That's the class that I played previously. While it is interesting, I don't think... I think we'd be doing a disservice by not choosing one of these more interesting classes that the game has created for us. Because we can definitely play as a Ranger type character on many other games, I'm sure. Rogue. Rogue does kind of call out to me. Again, it's another one of those classes that we can play on another game in the future. I guess I shouldn't really focus on that too much. Rogue is a likely option for us, I think. That's fair to say. And then there's Wizard, which I want to shy away from because I feel like our character... I don't know. I'm going to go with Cypher. It's really just calling to me. I'm going with Cypher. I have no idea what we're getting into. That's fine, but we're going to be a Cypher. Ooh, powers. Okay, so they get spells. Can directly target allies and enemies with powerful soul-focused effects. These powers cost focus, which Cyphers build up through the use of their Soul Whip. Soul Whip. What is that? That sounds awesome. Does it say here? Starting ability through the use of their Soul Whip. No, it doesn't really say much. That sounds awesome. I'm guessing it's like a ranged attack or something. Alright, so apathetic field. Antipathetic. Antipathetic field. So, antipathetic people field. Creates a... I'm just kidding. Creates a toxic physical manifestation of a mutual antipathy between the Cypher and the enemy target. Enemies caught in the path between the two will suffer corrosive damage. Okay, so I'm assuming, yeah, it creates like a beam that connects two different creatures, me and the target, and everything in between gets burned or something. Eye Strike. Ooh, selecting these makes sense. Alright, Eye Strike shocks an enemy's visual receptors, dazing and blinding them as well as blinding nearby targets. I like that. I'm getting the feeling that we're going to be kind of controlling. Also, that's really spiteful. Just like, ugh, you can't see. Mind Wave. Target becomes the object of a concussive blast of psychic energy, suffering raw damage from the trauma. Ooh. Characters from a conical area, yeah, it's from a cone, behind the target, failing a fortitude check, are knocked prone from the blast. That is awesome. We're definitely getting that. So it's just a push, basically. A telekinetic, like you just crush their mind. Soul Shock briefly transforms the outer shell of an allied target's soul into energy, releasing an electrical burst around them. Characters standing in the area around the target take shock damage. That's cool. This character definitely feels like more of a control type character. Or this class. Tenuous Grasp. Assails the target's grasp on reality, frightening and confusing them. That would be useful as well. I mean, we've already got this damaging effect, so we don't necessarily need 2 damaging effects, so maybe another control effect would be good. We've got plenty of them, and I feel like that's what we're for. Whisper of Treason imparts a bedeviling secret to an enemy that causes its allegiance to bend, charming them for a duration. I really like that. I like that. Since we're so, like, kind of good at kind of, I feel like we pay attention to our enemies, and when we learn things about them, and then we tell them, and then we just twist them through our own will because they don't think of us as important enough to be able to matter. That's great. I'm going to go with Mind Wave and Whisper of Treason. Alrighty here. Attributes. So I'm guessing these stars mean, yeah, recommended for Cypher, highly recommended for Cypher. So our intelligence is our biggest thing. So we've got Might, which represents physical and spiritual strength, brute force, as well as... Do we want our character to be good also in melee combat? It's kind of what matters here. I imagine it's good to have a fallback on that. I kind of like these. Perception. Since we're Orlan, we get 2 more points in perception, so we can lower this, I feel like. And then raise our intelligence. I feel like that would be more of a successful thing. Resolve, internal drive, our constitution. We're smart. We're quiet and smart. We'll lower our constitution, which is pretty much normally a big no-no, I feel like, in video games, because you don't want to die. Your main character shouldn't have to die. Oh, I have 16 points. Holy crap. Wow. I didn't know I had that many points. Guess I should pay attention. So, let's just do a little bit of that. Pretty well-rounded, intelligence being our best skill stat. Let's raise this up here. Perceptive and resolve. I think this is good. We're gonna go with this. Not really paying a lot of attention to how much... We're not really min-maxing here. It's definitely not what's happening. Not really paying attention that much to it, even though I should to some degree. I don't know. That should be good. Culture. Okay, so I guess this is where we're from. So there's Aedir. The Aedir Empire is currently the largest and most powerful force in this part of the world. I guess we should have paid attention to be... Where are we from? I like that we can go back to this. Commonly found in Aer Glanfath, a territory comprised of the forest southeast of the Bale River, populated indigenously by a group of loosely affiliated tribes collectively known as the Glanfathans, and governed by a council of its 6 most powerful tribes. Aer Glanfath is home to a large number of ruined Angwithan sites, which Glanfathans hold sacred. The ruins have been at the center of a number of large-scale conflicts with Direwooden colonists, whose settlements often encroach on... Okay, so they're like barbarian people. I don't really think we're barbarian people. The Ixomatl Plains, which doesn't tell anything about that. And Direwood, parts of Direwood, a colonial nation founded by settlers. So are we normally slaves there? Is that where they were? Yeah. Okay, so we're looked down upon in Direwood. I think that's where our culture should be. But first, what is the... Oh wait, it changes. Our culture changes our equipment. That's cool. Ixomatl Plains. Ixomatl. It's kind of like, I don't know. Located in the northeast of Aer Glanfath, the Ixomatl Plains are a large expanse of fertile savannas that are extensively farmed by human and Orlan residents. One of the oldest in the world, though one of the least imperialistic, having spread over the last... Yeah. Nah. Old Valia. Nah. I think we're gonna go with... Wait, where is it? What is Direwood? Direwood... I guess we can't choose Direwood. Oh well, I guess. The Living Lands. Okay, let's go back up here. Deadfire Archipelago. Consisting of a nation of Nasitico. Okay, so this... Hundreds of lawless, pirate-infested islands that... home to boreal dwarves. Ooh, that's interesting. Last stop for anyone headed east. A multitude of monstrous creatures infest the ocean. Yeah, I'm not feeling that. Don't really care much for monstrous creatures in the ocean. It's creepy. So we've got the plains, which sound like they might be nearby where we're at if we're trying to be from Direwood. I think Direwood is where we play at in the games. Old Valia. Valia. Cultural. I don't really think. Crumbling remnants of an empire of warring merchant nations. No, this is by the blah, 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 people. Countries. The Living Lands are a mountainous region of larger northern island renowned for its diversity of plant and animal life. I don't really think that we live out in the wild that much. We must live in civilization. We might just go for Old Valia or just Adir. Probably just going to go with Adir. Because it does say that Direwood is a product of Adir. So, we're going to go with Adir. I feel like that's a pretty vanilla choice, but, you know, it's fine. Ooh, now we get another background thing. Aristocrat? No, not really. We're not a noble kind of person. Dissident? You've made a name for yourself as a troublemaker. I kind of like that. We'll see. Hunter? Not us. Mercenary? Maybe. Clergyman? Not really. Colonist? You're part of a group that founded a fledgling colony? I mean, I could see that in that maybe we were indentured servants. Drifter. You never quite fit in no matter where you go. Each town is just a place to rest briefly before moving on. I like that. It kind of makes me sad a little bit, but fits our character great. Because it sounds like our character... Oh, slave is an option. It sounds like our character is well aware that they don't really fit in. And it's a bit sad. Laborer also fits us. Because, again, indentured servant. Merchant. Not really. And then slave. You have never known freedom. Shackles and chains have bound your existence. And someone has told you what to do your entire life. I enjoy that. We're going for it. We're jumping in. We're an ex-slave. We even look kind of like an ex-slave with these clothing kind of stuff. Those are pretty cool portraits. Alright, so now we're choosing our color, or like our appearance really. We're going to choose one of these portraits first, and then we're going to base... Oh, that's not... I'm going to base how our character looks upon that. Wow, it doesn't really look like there's a lot. Okay, maybe we're not going to do that. I guess our portrait's just going to be like this, and then we're going to make our character look however, I cannot speak today. However, we feel like it. Let's see here. That's fancy. That doesn't fit our... Maybe if we were the merchant. A slave. Alright, a slave. Or an ex-slave. Wow, that's interesting looking. We are an ex-slave. Do slaves have a lot of beard? Facial hair? I like the facial hair because it's interesting. I don't know. Heads. There's two heads. Oh, this one. I like this one. It looks like he's been scarred and like he's lived a painful life. I enjoy this one. He's scornful. That's what he looks like. Alright, let's go to the first hair. I like to go to the first one. Alright, first one's bald. He looks kind of like a goblin right now. Then there's that hair. That looks alright. That's alright. Something a slave would have. This hair looks a little bit too fancy. I don't think he's too fancy of a guy. That's meh. It's alright. That looks like a Viking would have, maybe. This looks kind of like a unkept slave hair. Maybe we'll do that. That's alright too. Kind of elvish looking there for a minute. I like this one. That one too definitely looks kind of unkept to me. It looks maybe a little styled, but for us it looks a bit unkept. This one makes us look too much like a wild man. This one too much like a wild man. This makes us look like kind of an edgy teen. This one is meh. Whoa. Alright, Bob Ross. Alright, even more Bob Ross. This one looks like we have like a bush on our head or something. Like, seriously? Can we make green hair? We have a bush on our head. Pretty much. This is gonna be our character, I feel like. Just kidding. Let's go and see. This one looks too fancy. That is definitely pretty badass, but not what we're going for this character. I mean, I don't know. We were a slave, but now we're not. Nah, I think that's too show-offy for our character. We're kind of like in the background, I'd like to say. I think maybe we'll go... I like this one. I do. It looks like he's kind of just grown his hair and facial hair out ever since he's escaped captivity. Well, it did say that they're not slaves anymore, so... But we did live a life of slavery. I don't know how long it's been since we haven't been slaves, so we're gonna have to try and figure that out. Ooh, we have a voice. Smooth. Can we play it?
Now I am the leader of the group.
That is clearly Matt Mercer. Now I am the leader of the group. That's not really us, I guess.
Stand together!
Stand together. We're not very benevolent.
Keeping quiet. Yeah. Follow me. Let's go!
Is that? That sounds like Sam Riegel.
Keeping quiet.
What is this?
I've got this. Let's go! Time to see and not be seen.
I like this one, the feisty one, because that's our character.
Yeah?
We're feisty.
I've got this.
That's totally where we're going with. We're going to go with it. I feel like we spent way too much time on this character creation, but you know what? It's pretty important.
Death to our enemies! Nothing will slip past me. Ready when you are.
Meh.
I shall lead us.
Let's go!
I shall lead us. That's totally what we're going to have. Alright, we're feisty. We're a feisty little guy. Oh shoot, what is our name? I don't even know what names are accepted for these guys. I feel like we should have an accepting name. What is the name that calls to me? Oh boy, I probably saved the hardest one for last. If this takes a long time, I'm just gonna skip forward to it. Let's see. What is something that's spiteful? What is a spiteful thing? Let's see. Wow. They don't even, there's no, I wish there was a random generator for this, really do. That'd be making things pretty easy. Step 1, game, let me know what kind of, for role-playing purposes, let me know what sorts of names are examples of names for these races. I kind of want to have a good example. What is our name? Let's see. I'm Silas. That's calling to me for some reason. We're gonna be known as Silas. That kind of sounds like it might be a human name, so if it is, and it doesn't fit to our names at all, then maybe it was just a name that we were given. Alright, we are Silas, and we are pretty feisty. We are a pretty feisty little Hearth Orland cipher named Silas. I like how Silas and Cypher kind of are put together pretty well. And we were once a slave to the nation of Adir. So anytime we deal with Adir, we're going to be probably in the background kind of thinking of disdain towards those characters. We are very intelligent, perceptive. Yeah, we kind of like watch from the background. We don't have... We're a bit stronger than you think we would be. So if someone came up and fought us, we'd pretty tough. All right, man. This is Silas, everybody. This is who we're going to be dealing with for the next however long this adventure lasts us.